3 minutes late.
Oh my.
So we better get moving.
Not my fault.
Not your fault.
Sue
You got.
Your clock's
Sue would
different
tell
than
me it
mine.
is.
It's Sue's fault. How's that? Okay.
Number three.
Oh, does it? Okay.
So
Thank you for putting us first.
you always come first.
Your application got in first, that's the only reason you're first.
Yeah, you just happen to be first. So why don't you introduce yourselves and we'll introduce ourselves.
Yeah, my name is John Cunningham, 67 Pond Lane,
And
Lane, here in Lynn.
I'm Mary Claire Madelay and 65 Pop
so Mary, Claire, and John. Okay, so let's go around and
I'm
just.
Rusty Keith.
Hi, I'm Eric Furstenberg.
I'm Tim Cook, I'm a member of the planning board.
Yeah, these are all members.
Oh,
They better be. I'm John Stadler.
Dave Roby, I'm an alternate.
And I'm Dave Robbins, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
All right,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. And so you want to do this lot line adjustment, and we okay. I think everybody's gotten a look at it. It looks pretty straightforward. But is there anything you want to tell us?
No.
Okay.
Just that we're both agreed on.
That's probably the
We were
best.
both agreed on it and comfortable with it.
Okay. Right, so I think one of the only issues that we needed to look in was on page 5 of your conservation easement. There was a question about river subdivision, and David contacted your easement holder, the Connecticut River Conservancy, and it was fine with them, what you're doing. So we're gonna have to go through the formality. We have to go through this checklist to make sure we're not missing anything, and then we can make a decision. Okay? So I guess we can start with that, David, but in case anything, do you have a question?
Yeah, maybe I'm just not reading this right, but on the map, it says 0.35 acres, 2 lot 16. And then down below it, it says 0.34 acres, 2 lot 16.
Well, those
So
are
they're
both.
both going 2 lot 16.
What we're doing is we are exchanging equivalent pieces of land. So that she originally had 5.01 acres, which is a requirement for the area. She ends up with 5.02. So her triangle is just a teeny bit bigger, but we're exchanging triangle for triangle. It gives her a neater line, and it's desirable for me as well.
Okay.
So where are the structures on the map? Didn't we talk about this before in modern kind
Yeah,
of structures?
well,
were?
Vicky was more interested in the septic systems.
Right.
And I took a look, and your septic system is just north of the original boundary. So this is actually going to set the septic system further into the lot, increase the setbacks. On the northern, on lot 16.
My lot.
Yeah, Lot 15, the septic system is much further to the south and not
It's up by
interfere.
the house.
So will that, I mean, none of the buildings are on here, so we don't even know what they are.
So I did verify that it wasn't going to, the change was not going to impact any of the buildings or any of the septic systems. The only issue I saw was that for your property, there were 2 septic designs. One that was built and one that was not, also both done in the same year. The one that was built did note a replacement area up in the triangle that's going away. Because, and the reason for that was that the original septic system that was designed, that was not built, was designed for this area. And so I think that when you look at the septic plan, there was perk test done up here. And so all they did is just put a little balloon and said alternate or replacement area
But the bottom line is it just, we need for there to be a replaceable, they
Right,
can
there's
replace, they
plenty
can
of area
replace
for-
in place or
Yeah, that's
elsewhere.
And I think the only, I don't normally see this on any septic plans. So my assumption was that because this area had been perked, they had just noted it, that there was a.
That it was there.
There was there, not that it was required, it doesn't need to be. It was just noted that there was an area that it had perked that could be used.
Okay.
So, John's, can you point for John's?
Right here is, right almost where the Mountain Forest District line is, that's where the leach field.
Okay. So that will now be closer to the property line?
No, further, because the property line is going to be the slanted line.
That will actually now be on his property.
Well, it's not, it's still on his property, it will be further,
Okay, the slanting line is the new line?
yes.
Right.
Okay. This is the new line. That's the new
Yeah, that's the new line, this is the old line. Or, no, that's the district line.
Yeah, but
This
there's
is
one
the-
that's horizontal.
Yeah, but this
That's
is,
the one.
yeah.
If you look at the large plot, the one that's dashed that goes straight across is the current lot line.
Okay.
Right.
The angled solid one is the new one.
Right. Okay, shall we go through the checklist, and then if you have, anybody thinks of questions during that time, is that okay? Everybody? Take that as a yes? We'll bring it up.
Maybe I'm just being thick here, but it says 0.35 acres, 2 lot 16, but it's actually going to lot 50.
I think what these, there's,
At the very top where it says 0.0 acres, 2 lot 16.
I think this should say, these to and froms should be
Reversed.
reversed.
Yeah, that's why I was getting confused.
But I think you can go through the checklist and then, because this would just be a minor change that,
Yeah, so there's a good catch.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is,
I knew it. I thought
this
there was
is,
something.
it's, they're all 16, so.
These-
You're the only one who caught it.
And these should, right?
um,
The 16 is getting,
yeah, 0.34 acres,
that's right.
yeah, so.
This one should be 15, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, 3.5 goes to 15, goes to 15.
Yeah, sorry.
So,
So that would be,
so this is, that should be a from, so you have 0.35 from lot 16.
and,
The way that,
and
yeah,
that should
the
still
way,
be 16, and then he's gonna get 3.4.
right,
This one is gonna lose 3.4 and get 3.5, that would be 15 and 15. You're right, that is a mistake.
Yeah, well, it's a minor thing, but
Yeah, it
like
should-
20 years from
Yeah.
now, if somebody
You,
looks at it.
you don't wanna have
they're
that
gonna-
in your,
they're gonna
on
get
your,
rid of
So
it.
that has to be fixed.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll be a condition. All right,
Good, good catch.
very good catch. Who's this fellow here? All right, everybody ready for the checklist? Got your seatbelts on. Okay, name and address of each abutter by map and lot number. Yeah,
yeah.
name and business address, et cetera.
Okay, there was, on the maps that I gave you, we did not have a seal from the surveyor. He came in and stamped one for me, so I have a stamped copy, and he verified that the ones that you received are in fact correct.
All right, so how should I treat that on the
Yes,
checklist?
because it's,
All right, so David has, I'll just put
Well, we
David.
need to do it.
right, because we're gonna, the final ones that come in, to me will have, your signature will have to have those.
Okay, I'll just put that you have stamped
Yeah.
docs. All right, the 10 blue or black,
Yep.
got those. The size per requirements of registry of deeds.
Yes.
Scale no smaller than 100 feet per inch.
It is 100, let me try 100.
Yeah, you got that. Okay, be prepared, signed, certified by the New Hampshire licensed land surveyor. Complete boundaries, area of entire parcel, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Existing and proposed lot lines, angles, dimensions, et cetera.
The only thing I would didn't know if you wanted to have changed, is to have them marked better on the, because there seemed to be
As
some
the-
confusion between which, what was the original lot line and what was the new.
How do people feel about that?
Oh, I'm sure if I have to drag the key
Oh,
close.
no, it actually, even took me a while, it's not,
It's not on the legend.
it's not on the legend, it's not shown
Okay.
anywhere.
So-
Saying a new line and draw an arrow to it, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I would just, say,
Yeah, it is a little confusing, so, yeah,
and the reason I say that is this has to get sent to, the folks who do the tax maps.
Right.
And
we don't wanna have any confusion.
it makes it easier for them, so just adding that.
So I'll put yes with a note.
Yeah,
Old line, new line, or is that, what are we saying there? Just a new line, or?
or just, note existing and new boundaries.
Or emphasize, or
I would just say
Note.
note, yeah.
note existing.
It's actually this map. It's this one that's confusing, this one's clear.
Yeah.
Are we okay with that? All right, location of existing and proposed easements, et cetera.
There is an easement on both lots that is held by the Upper Valley, or not that, it's the Connecticut River Watershed Council. And according to the easement, there is,
I went over that, page 5,
page 5 or 7.
the use limitation.
Yeah, the easement.
Yeah, but you got.
Yeah, I'm saying, well, that's, we do have the easement,
Okay,
and I do have a letter from, or an email from the Watershed Council saying that they feel it does not violate the easement.
okay, so
So we're good with the,
that's a yes.
yeah.
Location of existing and proposed utilities, et cetera. This isn't really
That's,
applicable, is it?
well, that's where it's not on the map. I don't think it, other than if you wanted the septic, but I think it's extraneous information that is not.
Okay, how does everybody on the board feel about that?
So, is there any utility or other lines?
It doesn't show any of the.
It doesn't show at all.
Do they go up the driveway?
That's, where are the utility lines, would they come in for the houses?
For my house?
Oh, both.
Well, for my house, it comes in at the, here's the driveway, okay, so the utilities come up the driveway, here's the driveway right here, so the utilities come up the driveway, and then they're buried.
And mine come up the edge of this property to the house.
Okay, so it's up to the board if you wish to.
Do you want that shown?
I don't think it impacts the
As long as,
application.
as long as the buried lines aren't on that, the triangle that's being.
There you go.
As I said, just a note that we were assured that the buried lines are not in the affected area.
So do you want to waive?
Yeah, I mean, that I would,
I would.
yeah, sure. Location of zoning district boundaries, I see that here, well, at least I see where it's relevant. Mountain, forest, and rural district.
Yeah, the one thing that is not, is the area of each lot within each district.
Yeah, it's like,
Oh, it is on the side, okay.
everything, very located within the.
Yep, no, I missed that.
Okay, so we're good with that?
Yep.
Name and address of each butter and fee, et cetera.
Yes, I have that.
Final plat within 60 days.
Get that left in. Have to come.
So, to come. Title matters, provide a copy of each of the following: most recent deed to the property.
Yep, it's on file in the town.
All present or proposed easements, et cetera.
I have the easements on file.
A deed restriction shall be placed in the body. You're aware of this language.
Now, this language is not, usually you have it put on the plat.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you want to continue doing that, or if you want to.
Well, we've always done it.
Yep, so.
Yeah, I think, I don't know why we would stop. Okay, so we're good with that? So, yeah, that'll be a condition. Dimensional conformance, you must prove that you're not making any conforming, et cetera. Well, we went through
I
that.
went through that and I did not find anything.
All right, the board may waive the requirement of a perimeter survey of the entire parcel. That's everybody's thought on that. All right, so we're waiving it, it's really not necessary. So that's,
Well, it also references if you look at the plan reference, that's where the original boundaries came from. So there is a perimeter survey on file. So I think you're waiving having to redo that perimeter survey.
Right, but these.
Looks like there's one new pin placed where did this come from? All these, is that not surveyed?
You're right, that, if you look at the plan reference down at the bottom, that's where all this, other than the new line.
Right, but the new line is in two different directions, so I would assume, well, no, it's one straight line, right?
No, this goes from this.
Yeah, that's one straight line, yeah. Okay, you're just, the little dot in the middle is just to show where it crosses the original line.
Yeah, right.
Okay, gotcha.
all right, so we're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the checklist, seems complete. We need to vote on whether it's complete. I'll make a motion that the application is complete. Second. All those in favor?
With the noted conditions.
Yes.
Well, it's just, that'll issue, the approval will be the.
This is just for them to be complete. But we'll get to that now. All right, so, any further discussion about this lot line adjustment? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the lot line adjustment with the noted,
Yeah, the three things I have is to correct the acreages, just to make it clear where everything's going. Note the existing and the new boundary, and then add the deed language to the plat.
the deed language and the final plat, obviously, is to come. All right, so those are the conditions. I made the motion. Second, got a second there. All those in favor? The multitudes opposed? All right, you're done.
So,
Okay, so it's,
okay, well, what I need you to do is to the surveyor, have him redo
Yeah,
the
scrapbook.
flag, it's gonna need to change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's on file at the office, I don't
You
need
correct
it.
me if I'm wrong, that, we need some sort of a,
yeah, a lot of paper.
It's my lot.
Mylar, so we can put that on the Mylar one.
Right, what I need to get is, you need to make, you'll make changes, the three changes that I need on the,
You tell me what you need, that's what we do.
right. This needs to be changed, these, just as long, these so that they read, both of these so that they read correct.
So, is this,
is that correct?
is this correct?
I
Well,
keep getting myself confused.
right, I'll need to.
Sorry, guys.
It's gonna take me a minute to sit down and go through it. So I can get that figured out.
Well, so what it says here, it seems right to me, it's the 6.42, ends up at 6.11, that's my lot. And her lot started at 5.01, and it ends up
But
at
like I said,
5.2.
That's,
These have to be designated,
but
correct?
these designations,
So we end up with the right number, but we got it the wrong way.
I believe, I need to sit and work through this to figure out where these are supposed to go. So that needs to be fixed.
I'll give you a call then. Okay, do you think you're gonna need a new one from the surveyor?
I'm gonna need 3 of them. So,
How do you pay for it?
so then he's gonna need to change or add just a notation, the lot lines, the original and the new. And then there is some language that he is going to need put on the plot. And basically it's,
Yeah.
this language, I have this in electronic copy that I can send him. And he actually should have it because I keep making him put it on. And basically it just says that you're not creating a new parcel, you're just adjusting.
Doing a letter.
Right, so.
So he needs to add that,
Yeah.
so you can send that to him?
I can send that to him, and then what he has to do is he has to provide me 3 copies, 2 paper, like these, that are updated, and 1 Mylar. I will have John sign it. All John Stadler, he'll sign it up, basically, when you look at he has a spot here where you can sign it. And then once he signs it, all 3 copies, I will give you the Mylar back, and you can bring the Mylar up to the county and have it registered up at the Registry of Deeds. And then once that happens, you can do your deeds to, have your lawyers write up the deeds to transfer the property.
So we have to do.
So a lawyer has to,
And then we should do the
Or a new, however they want to do it, the lawyer's choice how they want to do it. All this is permission to do this. It does not actually create the land transfer. To transfer the land, you have to have deeds drawn up.
I think it says permission.
Okay. Okay, so
All right.
we need 2 people on my line.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you very
And
much.
1, 2 changes.
3 changes. You have to add the text.
Oh, that text.
So David, you can go over any further issues.
Thank you, sorry to take up your time.
No problem.
Thank you so much for, you guys are volunteers, we appreciate you volunteering.
Well, we appreciate your appreciation, we really do.
Well, it's, I'm sure it's a lot of hours, but
Yeah.
it's important to keep
Keep everything warm.
everything kind of nice the way it is, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Heitzman Lieberman, come on down. I have to make a disclosure, I know these people, I don't like them, but I feel I don't need to recuse myself. Is that okay with you?
That's okay.
Yes,
And does anybody,
else not like us.
anybody in the public, yeah, anybody else not like them? Okay, so everybody's had a chance to look this over. Are there any questions?
The only question I had, the shed that's there.
Yeah.
Is that gonna, how close is that gonna be to the new property, you know?
About 20 feet.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, we have a 35-foot
That
setback.
20 feet should be fine in the Lyme Common District.
Oh,
Rural District's 35, Lyme Common's 20.
Oh, good, okay.
Well, that's good.
I can move it.
Okay, well, that was my only, when I saw that, I was just wondering how close it was.
So there was no magic where you put that in, number 6.
That, no, I was just trying to,
Shoot line.
yeah, sure.
So we're good with the shed? The setback's okay?
You checked that, or
Check.
the 20 foot?
I haven't verified it, but I've,
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was in the rural district, but obviously.
We'll have to make one for shit. It's easier to move the line today than move the shit tomorrow.
just take
It can move.
It can move.
It can move.
So, are we okay with the 20 feet? Okay. Any other questions? Anything you wanted to tell us?
You should like us.
Oh,
So the parking is now on Andrews, right?
No, well, there was a small portion of it.
Okay, the little.
So, yeah, just, no, no.
Sounds like that's primarily the objection.
Do we need to keep the parking out of the setback? If the driveways,
Driveways can be within setbacks if there's no other alternative.
anything else? Are we ready to go through the infamous checklist?
so I saw there's one well on here, is there another well? Did I miss the second well?
No, there's one well that serves both.
Serves both,
It's got 50 gallons in it, so it'll probably serve forever.
All right, checklist? Any objections to going to the checklist? All right, name and address of each abutter. Got that, David?
Yes,
The name and business address of every consultant.
yep,
Size per requirements of registry of deeds.
yes,
Scale no smaller than 100 feet per inch.
yes,
Be prepared, signed, and certified. You got that?
yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped, provide 10 blue or blacks, we got those. Thank you. Complete boundaries and area of entire parcel, North Point parcel. Existing and proposed lot lines, angles, and dimensions, etc. Good with that?
Yep.
All right, if I don't hear anything, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, location of existing and proposed easements.
I didn't find any.
Okay. Utilities, wells, etc.
Yep.
Zoning district boundaries and area of each lot in each district.
It is all within the Lyme Common, and that is noted in survey note number 4.
Okay, name and address of each abutter and fee, etc.
Yep.
All right, so the final plat, that's to come, obviously. Provide a copy of the most recent deed.
Yep, that's on file.
Okay, all present or proposed easements.
I did not find any.
All right, the deed restriction.
That one is note number 2.
Okay, but that will continue.
Right, no, but I'm saying, is in this case, it's
Oh, it's already on there?
already on there.
Okay,
The,
I'll just say C.
Tim Rockwood is familiar with Lyme and knows to put it on.
And dimensional conformance,
Yep.
and waivers, the perimeter survey.
I think both are.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah. All right. So, I'd like to make a motion that the application is complete. Second, all those in favor? All those opposed, or there are none. All right, any further questions or discussion? Going once? Going twice? 3 times. I'd like to make a motion that, to approve this lot line adjustment with any of the, aforesaid, whatever we said.
There was nothing.
With nothing, with nothing. Got a second, all those in favor? All those opposed? I gotta tell you that this experience with you, I've really come around, and I like it, I like it a lot. So,
We like you too,
oh,
John.
thank
I think
you.
this is the
We
first
like all
time,
of you.
this is the first time since I've been here that I've had one of these and haven't had to have more edits and conditions.
I know, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well
Thank
done.
You're training the surveyor as well.
That's good. Somebody might want that, I don't know.
All right. Memorabilia.
Yeah.
So,
You want that for your
we are gonna
scrapbook?
need,
Yes, of course.
3 copies, 2 paper, 1 Mylar. I'll get John to sign them, and then you can bring the Mylar copy up to Grafton County and have it.
Perfect job for you.
Nice.
We have Tim will create the copies for you.
Keep in
but-
touch.
Yeah, if you call him
I
and
know they
say
do.
it was approved,
There's also
he knows
Palmer and Lisa.
he knows what to do. I need 2 paper copies and 1 Mylar. Of
This,
the plat.
They're stunning, they're stunning. Your brother and sister, they're from Puerto Rico.
Stunning is can go either way.
No, truly stunning.
okay, that's Calabra, here we go.
Yeah, yes. Not good.
All right, we.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Tell them to drop your receipt.
We have guests from the LCDC, so why don't you come down? And let's, after this discussion, let's not forget to do the minutes or other stuff. All right, well, welcome, why don't you, I had a little discussion with Dave beforehand, but why don't you missed that, but you can start all over.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to let y'all know that, we've changed chairs of the development committee. Niles is, busy in Ohio helping his.
You mean Chris?
No, Chris is, you know
Chris
Chris
not-
is the chair.
Oh, I thought this was a while ago. I was
We had our
told,
first meeting last night.
okay, but I was told that he was the chair, you know.
Oh, okay, so you all know
Yeah.
about that, okay, fine, good,
I mean,
I didn't know Chris was the chair, but I was chair.
thank you.
Yeah, as of the meeting with the consultants, I thought I knew that
Right,
Chris was
okay.
the chair.
All
But
right.
thank you for making
Can you
sure.
just verify name spelling? I think it's Ramsden.
Yes,
Yeah,
the minutes are wrong.
Okay,
Rich
good.
already picked that up,
Okay,
and
good,
the
okay.
current copy of the minutes has that change.
I see, good. I just want to make sure we got that right.
All right, we met last night for really the first time since we last got together. And, we're able to express a uniformly uncomfortable feeling with where we're at,
okay.
with the presentation. I think we all left the presentation, with a very negative feeling.
Wait a second. You mean when we all met together?
Right,
Oh, what was the?
With resilience as work.
yeah.
Okay. I wasn't there, so I,
We just, it felt, very negative, and there wasn't, you couldn't see any daylight in the presentation. It was just very, to me, I was very discouraged.
Well, I remember you said this is pretty depressing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. And since then, several, people have sent in comments and so forth about the presentation, and some other information that wasn't presented or was presented in one form but not in another. So, like, they use the 0.38 students per household for development. And there's also another study that showed it at 0.47. It's a significant difference.
Well, I
And they use
know
one,
with
not the other.
with the student number, everybody disagrees. You know, I mean, everybody says it's this or it's that, and that's what they use.
Or they use just the one. And also, there are 2 situations in Lyme that were not addressed. And one is Pondview, the Pondview experience. They have 15 units and no children.
Right.
And so that's maybe an outlier, but it's Lyme. And there's also 85 Dartmouth College highlighted,
Okay.
which is, you know, I'm not sure how many units are in there.
I think 22.
22 units, and there's only one student. So we have these differences
They're different.
that should be highlighted as well.
Yeah, I would just say that since that meeting, I have heard things from the other side of the, which is like, the number wasn't high enough. And, you know, we hired these guys to do a job, and there are things about what they came up with that I don't agree with. So, you know,
Well, it's
I
not,
don't know.
well, they can do their numbers, but the way in which they're presented is part of the problem. He's presenting it in a very negative fashion. Well, regardless, I don't know, are you comfortable with the presentation?
I was
Because,
comfortable with it.
Well, the development committee is not comfortable.
I gathered that.
And Chris spoke with Steve this morning. You know, well, we don't have what their final presentation is going to be. We don't know what they're gonna do.
Right, I saw the letter that they're gonna
Right.
get it to, I hope all of us by next week,
Right,
which would be good.
right. But that doesn't give us much time,
No.
before October first.
I mean, I always felt like this whole thing was really rushed, and here we are.
But
So
what do
you
we need
won't-
to do before October 1st?
So you won't feel any, objection to canceling the
Well, I
October
mean,
first and
my-
moving it to the other end?
I'm open to it, but I have concerns about it. And the concerns are that we hired these guys and we booked them for these dates.
Mhm.
And I don't know what, you know, if we say, well, now we're not gonna do it, do we have to pay them because we booked the date?
They won't care if we just change the dates.
I don't know. I don't know whether they'll say, oh, we lost business because we had these dates marked off.
We can ask.
I don't know. No,
Just ask. It doesn't hurt to ask.
I think.
Yeah, so I agree, I think it would be nice if they could do it.
We need
might
a little
wanna
bit
put-
more time.
We need a little more time.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, I
And we
think,
hired them.
I agree, but we also
And I
gave
think
them,
they said originally that they thought, you know, the schedule was ambitious to begin
yeah.
with, so they
All,
probably will.
I think it's incumbent upon us in that we gave them dates to just make sure out of courtesy that those dates are okay. The
Yeah.
other concern, I mean, I like having more time. I don't have a problem with that. But the other concern is if we move from, say, October to when? I don't know when you're thinking.
We were not gonna get that far,
Okay,
but,
Well, we could start with
we have,
that.
the next one, the second one was scheduled for the 17th.
Yeah, we can maybe start with that one.
oh, I see,
That was the
oh,
plan.
just moving one. Oh, I thought you were like saying, let's just,
No, just move it.
Just
Just
take
move
the
it.
first one and move it to the third.
I don't have a problem with that at all, if they're okay with it.
Okay, so it was the 17th and then 30th,
Right.
so it would be a couple of weeks after, well, have to be after election, after the election.
Okay, but before, really gotta be a little bit before Thanksgiving or we'll lose everybody. For that
Sure,
trip.
that's the third one, so we've already had two.
I know, but
So-
we're paying for it,
No, I know, but
let's
I'm just
get,
saying, it's,
we wanna maximize turnout.
Make it
Right,
the
right.
13th or the 14th,
Yeah, I think that's enough. Cushion. Okay,
somewhere in there, whatever.
no
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
as long as they don't have a problem.
Good.
So, I have a question. I'm assuming that in their budget, or our budget, they can't have another meeting here with all of us like they did the
I
first
asked
time?
them that, and I hope you all got the threads that because it's worthwhile reading through. I asked them, I thought it would be really helpful if they could essentially facilitate us, you know, but they said their budget is done. So, I mean, I think it'd be
Well, when,
valuable.
Yeah,
all right, it's disappointing.
because it's hard to do it with the,
Yeah, I mean,
on the screen, I
exactly.
think.
Right,
I wonder how much they would charge just to come over one time, one night. Maybe we could come up with that one.
that's like that.
Yeah, pass the hat.
That's like that.
I
Or
think it'd
we
be
could
very.
get the presentation and work it out amongst ourselves.
I think we can,
Yeah, I think we can.
but, I mean, I don't see why we shouldn't be able to, we'll all have to compromise. It's-
Yeah.
So you're suggesting we move the October 1st further, so we have more time between receiving their presentation and finalizing the survey? Okay, so you wanna see their final product,
I wanna know what they're gonna tell us.
what they're gonna tell people before we write the survey, so we can be consistent with what their conclusions are.
Well, I'm not tying the two together. I think we need to be comfortable with the presentation, that we agree with, but are okay with what they're telling you.
We need to be able to stand behind the numbers
Right.
and the findings that they come up
And
with.
the attitude with which it's presented.
Okay, I mean.
So this, what is the form of the presentation they're gonna give? Is it a written report that they're gonna give us? 'Cause this-
No, well, they're gonna give it, yeah,
They're gonna
but,
stand up in front of.
but they're gonna be also giving this presentation at the forums.
At the forums, are they gonna come and practice it for us? Or-
No, they're just gonna give us the PowerPoint.
They're getting us the PowerPoints. Okay,
So, I mean, I guess
So that we'll
one,
have the numbers and
okay.
general attitude.
one thing that, I mean, I assume that we can work it all out together. But one thing that concerns me about what I'm hearing is, it just kind of sounds like you don't like the results that they came up with.
I'll speak to that, John.
Okay.
The results that we've seen so far are the report that they showed us on the 23rd. I sent them a fairly detailed list of questions that say, I don't understand how you got this number, I'm not sure how this compares to Lyme, I don't, I didn't go so far as to say I don't believe them, but I do need.
But you don't believe
Well,
it.
but I don't understand, I don't understand. where
I mean,
this
what do you
number-
think that they, I mean, what do you think they were doing, making them up, or?
I think, speaking to Vicky's point, they're not looking at Lyme's experience. They're
That
saying-
wasn't Vicky's point.
Well, it absolutely
Yeah,
was.
that was.
No, but that was,
Vicky said-
Vicky, what Vicky said, as I recall, it was in response to your reference to the Hawk study.
Yes, and so Vicky asked that they be sure to include Lyme's experience.
Right, rather than,
And-
because the Hawk study was a
I agree.
state-based study.
But so was theirs. Where did they get their number?
So,
They didn't use Lyme specifically.
actually,
in their
they,
Actually, I think they
they
did.
did.
They
So
did.
what they
Well,
said was.
They did, so
No, I
I can
found
tell
it.
you that I was not at the meeting, I didn't see the presentation, I've seen the numbers afterwards,
Yeah.
and I don't get the numbers.
So-
Because they're not Lyme
Well,
specific.
I mean, really what it sounds like to me is that the LCDC needs to talk to them. I mean, it sounds like you're challenging their numbers.
I want an explanation.
Okay, but I mean, you know, by all means, go ahead if they're willing to do
Yeah.
that, you'll probably have to pay them more. But I think you do need to be satisfied. I get a little bit uncomfortable if the LCDC reaction is basically, these aren't the numbers we wanted, and,
No, John, I'm certainly not saying that. I think I mean, what they said was, there are just a skosh under 300 kids in the Lyme School District. There's 777 homes in Lyme. And you divide it out, and that's where they come up with a quarter of a student K through 8, and an eighth of a student
Just to
in
interrupt
high school.
1 second and say, I don't know where they got that number. Where did
so,
they get 700?
I think you need to,
Well, do you know?
no, I don't.
Okay, so that's the question, that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have, on our
So,
list, looking at
Why
quickly
don't
today.
you all write down your questions?
It's done.
We will.
Email.
No, that's not gonna get us anywhere.
Yeah.
It's gonna just take forever to do that. I think we need to see the presentation and work that.
Okay,
So-
But if you're seeing the presentation based on numbers you don't believe, you should get the numbers to them before the presentation.
and-
Otherwise, we're wasting time.
Right. So let me just, I told you before that we mapped the students with Jeff and then to the brand list of the town, and we had numbers. I had already sent those numbers to them, so I don't really know how they were incorporated or if they were incorporated. I'm now updating those numbers. I can just tell you right now that we have 812 residences in the town of Lyme. And of that, we have 20 of them with more units. They were using it for unit number, but we don't even have that record in our files. So I don't know where they got that number.
So ask them.
And so that's why, and those numbers will be skewed significantly. If all of a sudden, instead of 777,
So, I mean, you
this
want-
becomes 900.
What you wanna do is challenge their numbers, I think that's fine. So go ahead and do it, but I would say do it before you better get to them right away. Tell them exactly what your concerns are.
I just want you to be aware that we're gonna be doing that.
I'm aware, but I will also say that if I feel like if it's justified, I'm on board. But if I feel like there's some, a push and pressuring, unreasonable pressuring of them to change their numbers, it's not justified, I'm not gonna support it.
Yeah, but they will.
Can you all keep us in the loop on your?
Yeah, I mean,
Because I would
we'd
like
like,
to see the questions that you have.
yeah, please CC the whole board with what you're doing, so we're not.
It might make sense to have one person funneling all the questions, get together, say, here are all our questions, so they're not getting,
Oh, yeah,
5
yeah.
from Rich and 5 from Dave and 10 from Sue.
I think it should be from Chris, because Chris is already talking
Possibly
to
Chris,
Yeah.
doing Christian.
Chris is our point man in this, and so we'll funnel everything through him.
So,
And I think if Chris CC's John, then,
John, you understand, I'm technically on the planning board sharing the information with both of us. Okay, so the study that I'm doing it's not geared in any, I'm not trying to push this in
but
any
I mean,
direction.
that doesn't matter that you're on the planning board. If people, I'll put it, if I got the sense that there's people on the planning board or LCDC that are unfairly pressuring our consultants, not based on genuine, substantial concerns,
So
I'll
I
be very
don't-
uncomfortable.
But I also think, having been someone who's done a lot of quantitative research in their life, that if they get overwhelmed with numbers, that they don't know where they come from. So if you're talking about the numbers that you,
I'm giving them the I'm giving them specific numbers to mine.
I know, if they have methodology they follow, and if they can't retrace the steps that anyone's taken, that undermines their work.
So, yeah, I agree
I would be
100%.
very resistant to those sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean,
So, Eric, John, let me speak.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody is pushing them in any direction. The things that, specific comments that I had were questions. Where does this number come from? How does it?
that's a valid question.
How does it
That's-
tie
that's
to
fine.
Lyme?
That's
And-
fine.
And,
Yeah, yeah.
and-
But to Eric's point, just about everybody on here has done their own study of something. No, I mean, really,
right.
and we're all gonna say, I mean,
That's-
we've all
that's why
told,
we
we've all,
hired them, is to-
yeah, I mean, we've all told them what we think, and they've either listened or blown us off. Really. And that's really what we hired them to do, is to make the tough decisions as professionals, what to incorporate and what to ignore. And I'm unhappy with stuff, but I consider that normal. On balance, I thought, okay, this is what they came up with. I think where I agree with you is if you don't understand where they got their material, and you can legitimately challenge it and say, this just is not right, and that we can all agree on that, I'm totally on board.
See, I wonder, I'm more worried about what they left out. Because there is current experience in the Upper Valley as well as Lyme, and I didn't see any of that in the report. So I'm wondering, my question always is, why did you leave current experience out and use some sort of statewide study or a different study that wasn't the Upper Valley specific or wasn't Lyme specific? So that's more my line of thinking. I don't really care whatever numbers they use. I want to know why they didn't use current numbers from the Upper Valley.
Well, what do you mean, current numbers from this?
Well, they didn't take a look at both Lebanon and Hanover have very large apartment complexes that they built within the last 10 years, okay? And I know in Lebanon, I don't know in Hanover, I know in Lebanon, they're up in arms saying you're gonna bring in a ton of school kids into, by building
Yeah,
this.
I read that
Yeah.
report.
Okay, so I wanna know, and, you know, what their thinking is by not at least mentioning that, as well as the one in
I
Hanover.
mean, there's a couple of, I mean, that's fine, but, and we don't need to
But
get.
aren't those,
Yeah.
I wasn't there, and it sounds like they've relied on statewide averages instead of more specific information in some cases.
Right, and that's my question.
But aren't those cases you're talking about, those are included in the statewide averages?
I'm not sure if they are or aren't.
Skewed.
Well, I'd also,
So outliers.
I don't know how.
Well, we're outliers.
If they're outliers, they're outliers.
If we pick and choose what outliers to put in, that's a problem.
I get what you're saying, and I can appreciate it, but I'd also say, well, you know, Lebanon I don't even know why, I read Arnett's study, and he had Lyme as one of the comparative towns, and it's like, really? Lyme with Lebanon? It's like the apples and oranges. So I don't really know, you know, Lebanon has the luxury of really being able to deal with a lot of volume and having very established infrastructure. So I don't really understand
But
why we would
the
even be
question isn't
using.
the development question, the question is why weren't they at least mentioning those type of issues, as well as the two that Sue mentioned here that we have right in mind. That's 4 examples right there in the Upper Valley that are current. They're not old examples, they're all current examples. And if you're going to do a study of Lyme,
aren't
the more
those-
relevant data is Upper Valley, Lyme, current.
Aren't those numbers in the line numbers? I don't.
They use statewide numbers, as far as I can see.
Okay, well, that's what you, that's, I would
Yeah, we
say,
can find that. You guys
you
can-
need to find that
And
out.
that's, so to your point of saying, you know, why would we use Lebanon? Well, why are we using statewide? I mean, so if you look at Lyme.
I don't have a problem with, I think more Lyme specific the
I mean,
better.
unfortunately, our data is very difficult to get.
Hey, we have, I'll tell you, we.
And I've been fighting with it for a long time.
We have extraordinary, you know, it's not fair to say, but I think we have extraordinary housing data. And Eric just updated it, and I told them about it. I don't know that they ever looked at it, but we have it.
So, I don't have, I don't even have, yeah, I would love to see your
Introduce
data
you,
too, but,
introduce.
I mean, I don't have that data, so.
Well, I showed you it cursorily one time at a meeting. Remember when we looked at the breakdown of every $100,000 value it was in housing inventory. And Rich is familiar with it because he watched us like a hawk when we were doing
It's
it.
posted on the internet, you can look at it.
It's
right
on the
now.
internet, yeah.
The old
The old
one,
one.
the new one has not
New-
changed very much.
The old one is pretty indicative.
Okay.
So we have some very good data.
Well,
It's on the.
It's on the website,
I
the planning board.
I think it's great you guys are doing it. I would just reiterate that, try to contact them real soon.
Real soon.
Before they start, you know, so they don't waste.
Because they're probably, they have that communication with Chris, and they're probably like, oh my God, let's get this done, they're probably working on it now. So, you know, the sooner you all can get it through Chris to them, and if Chris could CC me, I can send it to everybody on the
You're
board.
getting the heads up tomorrow.
I think I think getting those questions answered is important. So I'm totally on board with that. And I can't believe, I refuse to accept that we can't all work this out among ourselves. We'll just all have to give.
And, you know, as someone who's done a lot of this work in past careers, they will be willing to explain their numbers. That's what they like to do, and that is their job. So they will explain where the numbers came from, I hope.
Yeah, well,
Any
if they don't,
quantitative
that'll
consultant worth their salt
tell us something.
will explain where the numbers came from. And they may think you're not number savvy, you may have to push them to get hard answers, but they'll talk about it. If they're not willing to explain it, then.
Yeah, that's a red
it's a
flag.
problem.
But to
But
Eric's
they
point,
should. And, you know, I've been in this position, and I've never not explained what I've done.
in terms of what Eric's saying, I asked them about their figures for the average house price, because I thought it was high. But Eric actually confirmed it. But when I did ask them about it, they told me where they got their numbers. I think it was
What was the number?
about 450.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And the median is about 405, because we have this big bubble at the top. There's really expensive homes at the top. And then as you come down, it's kind of like this. But the top really raises the average, excuse the
We
average.
have 6.
But anyway, they told me, and I think it was Granite, or some, I forget what they told me, but I went, okay. You know, I
And
gave
that
up.
jives with the numbers that you had earlier.
Yeah, totally, the
Completely.
number I got was within $5,000
Of what they
for the
had.
average.
Good.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
jives with the numbers from what the state produces too.
Yeah.
It's all right in the state.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it surprised me is because I was really thinking median instead of average.
Medians of 400 and something?
405.
405, okay.
It was 388 the last time.
Yeah, I think we have 60 houses that are assisted,
Over 60.
We need more.
I think it's
Yeah,
more.
it's over 60.
And how many
I
houses do
think,
we have?
I think
I think it's 100,
in,
that's
in,
closer to 100, isn't it?
How many houses do we have, 800 and something?
I don't.
We have 812.
So 8% of the houses.
yeah, that was about right. That was about right. I think last time it was 66, and it's probably up, to 70.
And that really helps us.
Well, it helps with
Because
the taxes.
I think the majority of those, I would guess, the majority of them have kids. And so I think those houses really help the town.
Well, certainly, you have expensive houses. They pay a lot of taxes.
Right. Yeah, what I figured out is the top, I think it was the top, oh, I can't remember the number, but a very small percentage of those houses pays like a huge chunk, relatively huge chunk of, that's how the math works, of the disproportionate share of taxes in terms of services rented.
Plus, we give a lot of breaks to, for example, senior citizens who probably own the less expensive houses in town.
All right, so we'll leave it up to you guys to,
So can I add my 2 cents on the drafts,
Sure.
questions that went around, since they read through them? I liked questions from both you guys. I think it's really important, like John said, to have the questions be neutral. I think we should present the factual information above and then ask neutral-based questions on it.
as long as, I would say, as long as that's with the question.
Yeah, but there are places where both of you did stuff like, in the questions that according to the study, Lyme has, some ability for development potential, and then ask the question, do you support this kind of development or not? The factual information should be as far removed from the question as possible.
I
So all
agree.
those types of questions.
But actually,
are totally
I didn't do
leading.
that. That was Steve.
Well, it was in,
That
maybe it was Steve,
That
but,
was Steve.
that was my one edit with how things were written is, anytime you have, those kinds of results presented in the question, it's very leading to how
Yeah.
people answer.
That's fine with me.
And there was one iteration where there was, a bunch of stuff going well in the questions.
So Eric, but just to clarify my understanding of what you're saying, that, what I think you just said was, the question said Lyme has limited ability for development. Do you favor, should we allow or discourage more
Well,
development?
you could imagine a question like, there's a small chance that having a horse racing track around Post Pond would save Lyme's tax situation. Would you support this? Everybody's gonna go, yay, right?
I'd be
So-
against that.
So when you phrase questions that way,
Okay,
it biases the answers. So that kind of stuff shouldn't appear in the question.
No.
It should appear separately.
But for,
In theory, it should appear in the presentation.
In the presentation,
yeah,
exactly.
but I would, I
And we
would,
do, and the other question, the other thing I wanted to say was, we want informed, right?
We have to get,
How do you, we've had people
everybody to
here
the
who thought it
forums.
was the town's responsibility to build senior
Well,
housing
but that's-
for the citizens, and
to
you're just
your
not
point,
gonna get gobbled up if people don't.
Well, you're gonna get that no matter what you do, right?
I know, right?
But to your point, Eric, I think it's critical with the questionnaire that their findings be included at the top.
I think they should, I think, you know, I think there was one iteration that had a summary of what the purpose of the boards and the
Right.
consultants were, and then there were some bullet points with the 6 conclusions or something,
Right.
things like that. And then down below, you can ask questions about them.
Yeah, I mean, that developed because of the concern that even if you went to the presentation, you might not have heard this or that, so it's on the paper, and for a lot, hopefully, we'll get a lot of people who don't even show up for the forums, and this is gonna, you know, that questionnaire is gonna be their only
They're only,
information.
yes, so it should be,
So that, you know, if you want informed, if you're just gonna have like, do you want more development, do you want no development, or it's fine the way it is, we went through this last time and it was useless.
Right, you're gonna video
you'll get an answer.
Yes.
the presentation?
Oh, yeah.
Who knows, I mean,
But
it's-
based on
Doesn't
what?
help any.
I know.
I missed the first hour of the presentation, so I'd like to see that.
No, he hasn't video, he didn't.
No, you didn't video.
Oh, you didn't videotape
Oh,
it?
no, no,
I'm
no,
talking
no.
about the first one on October 17th.
Yes, I'm planning. to
So we
do
can
that.
video that, and we'll have that presentation. And we can.
That'd be great.
People can watch it, people didn't miss it. weren't
Although,
able to
although
catch
they
up.
said that, they're gonna use, you know, they're gonna do that first one, and it very well may change after
Well,
some feedback, but still, it'd
Mhm.
be
Well,
great.
if people miss the first one, they should, and we have the video, of it, they should be able to look at it.
Yeah. Oh, it's on public record.
So there's,
And I
there's
also
no-
think that we should, after the first one, we can critique them
Oh, absolutely.
in a sense and decide if we want them to come back or not, and decide if we're not just doing it ourselves.
We should, no, I disagree.
Yeah, I
We
disagree.
should absolutely not be the facilitators.
Or bring in a separate moderator. But I
And,
don't.
I mean,
We've already got the
Well,
money
I-
from those Lyme
we-
Foundation, right, so we should. they
Do we?
should- they should-
I haven't heard yet.
well, I'm assuming we do. But I mean, it's
That may decide it for us.
$20,000 and, you know, okay, you know, we're not gonna use it. I mean, if we're either gonna, if you're that unhappy with them, we're gonna just have to discuss it, but.
But I think they need to be there, because it's the same reason you guys all have questions, we all have questions about the numbers. Lyme is full of smart people, there are gonna be lots of other people who are gonna ask the same
Hard
kinds of questions,
questions.
where the numbers come from, and they need to be there
There-
to explain
And,
it.
and that's what they said, was they, I was happy to hear, Steve said, one of my roles is to stand up there and to take the heat. We're gonna have to defend our findings, and if we're up there, it's gonna be perceived badly, and I think reasonably perceived badly.
Okay, so we agreed we're not gonna do the October 1, we'll cancel it with the community cares, because they've been putting it
Yeah,
out.
please,
Let's-
are you gonna let them
so we
know?
wanna wait and see if resilience can be scheduled first, right?
Well, we're not gonna be ready October 1st regardless.
Because, I mean, that's already a
We don't
ways.
have enough time to get the presentation, we don't know when we're gonna get the new presentation. And then we all have to get together, review it, and decide that that's what we want, and then we have to work the questionnaire.
Okay,
You wanna do that in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I would.
I'm gone
When is
next
the,
week, so.
when is
Let's do it when Sue's gone.
Yeah, okay, that works for me.
When is the next?
I wasn't here, I had no part in
When
this.
is the next,
Not my fault.
CDC meeting?
It's the 26th.
That's a problem for Vicky.
That's a drive, budget committee that day?
Yeah. I think we might have
Sue has
to,
budget committee that night.
Yeah, we had budget.
we might just have to pick a day that we can get the most people to come and not be one
Day
of
or
our,
an afternoon or
anytime,
whatever, any other.
where we can get the most people.
Yeah,
What's this for? This is, no, when we're working through the questionnaire is what I thought. Is that what we're talking about?
And I think too, you know, reviewing
Their work.
report to say, do we believe it now, and do these numbers make sense? Do they
Well, if they can give us the explanation of where the numbers came from, and it's a reasonable explanation, then we shouldn't have an issue with the numbers, in my mind.
Right.
Now, how they paint those numbers is all, that's the presentation, and that's probably, I don't know if we're gonna get that until we get that, in other words, so.
Well,
Numbers,
no,
yeah.
I think you'll get a pretty good idea from the final report.
All right.
Because, I mean, your unhappiness, from what Sue was saying, came from the presentation. So I think you'll know how unhappy you are when you see their final presentation.
So, this is actually data from today, and I'm still massaging, but at least I know we have current town data. We have 812 residential properties in town. You just asked, and I just ran the list to see. Appraised, there's 62 of them over $1 million or more.
Oh, so it's down.
Assessed,
That's
38. There's only 38
Yeah,
assessed.
obviously.
So which one did they use? What did they use, appraised
I
or assessed?
believe they used appraised.
We used to praise.
We used appraised.
Well, when you're looking at this from a tax revenue standpoint, shouldn't they be looking at assessed?
I don't know.
Or looking at fair market value of
Or
houses.
fair market value.
Yeah, except that assessed values in the town, when they're this much of a discrepancy, that's what's driving our taxes, is the assessed value, not the
Well,
appraised.
you
value.
have that discussion with them.
And so, I gotta look at those numbers. The average appraised value, 462,000. The average assessed value, 409,000. And that's not the median and median.
No, I get what you're
it's the
saying.
average.
You need to have the discussion, don't.
So those are the
don't-
numbers
yeah.
that, you have to say, what number should we really, and then units. My point was made earlier, are we counting units here? Because as we build something like, or potentially build another Pond View or 85 Dartmouth College Highway, you gotta count your units there. Well, actually, Dartmouth College Highway is counted as properties. Because that's
Yeah,
not one
that's
of
in
them.
there.
But of the 20, there's somebody, I don't know where they are, but there's 20 multiple unit housing, so.
We went through.
We went
this.
through every single property.
Yeah, so what is the number? I mean, 812, you add 20, does it add another 20 to make it 836?
Well,
Of units, we
Yeah.
can look it up.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
that's what, so when I saw that, I read everything while I was on vacation, I saw the report.
nice vacation.
Yeah, right, where'd you get that number? Okay, well, I haven't seen that number yet, because that was the one thing I
He plays
couldn't.
with his family all day and he does this all
Sits
the
at
time.
night, I sit at night and do this, yeah. So
Drives him
unfortunately,
nuts.
the meeting was during dinner when I was entertaining him, but couldn't sit and watch that. Anyhow, those are,
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
get
interesting to
your
see
point.
what the numbers come to.
So, okay, let's just summarize what we think we just did, so that we're actually on the same page. The next steps is what? Are you gonna contact him, or is Chris?
Chris.
Or so,
I
so,
think we should ask when your report's coming.
We have, and they said they'd try to get it to us next week.
okay, but there's some steps before. First of all, you gotta make sure they're not gonna have an issue with, oh, you scheduled us and now you're backing out of that schedule, with their date. Just ask them that,
Chris will ask him.
I don't know, okay.
Chris will ask him.
Ask them about the date,
Yeah, just tell them one more time.
Right.
the date change. And if it-
I personally don't think it's an issue, but Chris will take care of it.
Yeah,
Chris will
just,
say, hey, this is what we wanna do, do you have a problem?
that's all, just out of courtesy. They're professionals, they have schedules, and they earn their living doing this. So, a date change, then you are gonna give them your questions to go over before, and you should tell them before, they do their report. Okay, so questions before a report, and he'll CC the whole communication with me, and then what?
We react accordingly.
Okay,
Under the assumption we're now on October 17th, and we have some time to get the questionnaire done, get the final report, process it through our brains, and try to figure out.
all right, we good with that? All right, well, thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Glad you guys came.
All right. we have minutes, does anybody have minute issues with the minutes?
Is it,
They're already corrected.
what, is there a record of our last meeting other than minutes?
No.
There's no tape?
No, there's not, because
Rich wasn't here.
Rich was on,
Rich was on the
I
TV.
mean, I'm more interested in resilience and not what.
yeah,
Yeah, regrettably, I mean, I actually saw on the teleconference, there was a record button, and I, fearing that I actually could have pressed that and didn't.
well, it's not your
It's
responsibility.
in my next life.
The gist of it was their, what their report
This
was.
was a rough draft of what's coming on
Right.
next week.
That was the gist of it.
Okay.
What you got is what they presented.
Well, I got our minutes.
No, but I mean, you got their report, the preliminary report.
No,
You did not?
paper report?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different.
You probably did, it came in the email with the poster. There were 4 attachments in that
Yes.
poster.
You sent that? You told me you did?
Yes.
And,
That-
Okay,
that's
and
basically
I
what
missed
they-
it as well.
I'll go look for
I
it.
did the first time as well, too.
Yeah, because
Yep.
that's, yeah, that's.
How substantial is it?
It should be on the planning board.
There's 4 pieces, I think.
Planning and zoning
But there's a
information.
lot of
No,
pages.
look at the, under
Blood
committees,
charts, a lot of-
boards and
No,
committees.
I have it here.
It's a planning board.
board scenarios.
Yeah, different
Planning and zoning is
scenarios.
me.
This is,
It's
this is
facet.
it.
Planning,
If we do
housing.
50
report.
units
That's
of
the one.
$500,000 or more, does that bring us down if we do 50?
Do you have it?
$50,000.
David tells me I have it
Okay.
electronically.
If you
All
got-
right.
If you don't, let me know. and
If you sent it, I'm sure I have
You
it.
still won't have it, but
Yeah, don't
These are,
let
these
me.
are just properties, so this does not account for units. So, higher up we have units. It's in the text, I think.
Well, we had to do units for we were required by law to do units for the
Yeah,
workforce
it's
housing.
something like, there's sort of an executive.
So can I have everybody's attention for the minutes? Any correction?
there were, Rich, he had several, I had Chris Ramsden's name wrong. Then you had, there was a font change, which I didn't pick up on that.
Oh, so, yeah.
I fixed that. And then there's Roger Hawk, not Hawks.
Hawks.
The Hawk, not Hawks.
Hawks.
Yeah,
Hawk.
right, no S.
That's why we call them hawks.
So, that, and then you had one question that is contents, I have to put that to the board.
Exactly.
As Chris Ramsden said, his memory,
Why
that,
it's cut.
what, said that his memory of his assessment was not
Pretty sketchy looking.
the results of Chris.
And, two is maybe.
Not satisfied with the result.
What did I say?
Yeah, I'm trying to, basically, you're saying he was disappointed that
Yes.
the results in the presentation were disappointed, and we reflected to say not accurate. And so it's just what,
We said that he said that they weren't accurate?
that's what,
The original draft of the minutes said that he said that the report was accurate. And
you satisfied through the results?
No, what that was referring to was when Sue was suggesting that she was unhappy that the commercial results were the way they were.
Mhm.
And she suggested that we try a different approach. And there was a discussion around the table, and I said I thought that they were okay. And it was actually what Chris said. He said, no, I think these are accurate, and he even said, I forget the exact wording, but he agreed, and that was the end of the discussion. That's why it didn't go any further. That's my recollection.
I don't remember that part.
But if you wanna take that, if he's
Yeah,
not,
I mean,
did
I
he
think-
say he's not comfortable with that?
Yes, he
Then
said.
take it out.
Yeah,
Take it
right,
out.
okay.
So, do you want me, this is,
Let me just,
yeah,
I don't care. Okay, I mean, I remember specifically, because that's what put an end to the discussion, that he said, no, he thought that the commercial report, this wasn't about the whole thing, was accurate.
Oh.
I'm happy to take it out if he doesn't want that to be in there.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have a copy?
fourth paragraph up from the bottom of page 2. Or page 1, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what I would say is that there was discussion about trying a different approach, and there was a general agreement that the original approach was fine. Nobody, and what I'm saying is nobody objected to the results. Okay, so here. Anything else? So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by Rich. Who else? Oh, John?
I'll just say it's amended.
Oh, as amended, you don't have to list the people. Okay,
Yeah.
as amended, okay.
You won't point blame.
Yeah, right.
It does, we'll be blamed anyway.
Call for a vote?
Yes, all, yeah, right, all those in favor, all those opposed. Okay, so I talked to David about the Regional Planning Commission build-out analysis, and he sent it to me, and you should all have it. Or you're gonna give him a handout?
I have a handout.
You have a hand, you should, all what I'm saying is you should all have it.
Another thing that I don't have that I should have. I'll pass that around. Basically, there's just an email, this is a preliminary from Olivia. She's basically burned through all the money, so.
Which is, you know, I was looking at her quote, and according to her quote, she should not be burned through it all by now.
Yeah, that's, we'll have that discussion with her, but, oh,
Sorry, Rich.
it's not private information. What?
How do you pronounce her last name?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's an unusual name, I have no idea.
That's why I used to say Olivia.
Easy, yeah.
All right, so any idea what this means?
Well, basically, you know, what she gave me is, two Excel spreadsheets. One is this huge sheet that I have no clue how to understand, which is all her base data and calculations, and then this is the summary.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right,
And I couldn't make head or tail.
Right, so but the summary, when I finally found that, made a little more sense.
But this really is not, you know, this is so un-user-friendly, to put it mildly. You know, what is it? This is like what I did when I didn't want to do my homework.
Yeah.
No, I mean, really, this is not professional. So, you know, my
Who's
feeling.
supervising her work on this?
What's that?
Is she a supervisor?
I believe it's, I can't remember the gentleman's name, was the head of the
So
regional planning.
my
Commission.
first reaction to the statement about hours is, that's not really up to her, right? They contracted for a product, didn't they?
Well, they gave a estimate of the number of hours it would take.
I have.
To complete a certain project,
Right.
right? It doesn't mean you use the hours and stop.
But I gathered from this that they want to charge us for the, any additional.
Yeah, I got that too, but
Right, but that's-
here's the proposal. I don't know whether this was the last one, but it was, you know, create a base map for the project, extend 5 hours to complete, including correspondence.
So if they didn't meet their own budgeted time, that's,
Yeah. Oh,
so
absolutely.
they're working inefficiently.
So David, what, the bottom line here
Essentially.
is,
Yeah, so what are the results, and we're getting sidetracked.
well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, we wanted them to tell us what's the maximum amount of new housing that can be put in the lot
No,
coverage.
they were doing a lot more than that.
Well, but I mean, that was one of them.
Yeah, but
That was one of the things.
There
they
were
really needed to
also,
do.
there were, the whole original reason for this was a build-out of what could be constructed under the senior housing article, proposed season, the senior housing, I mean, I don't see anything about it that makes any
Propose
sense.
senior on the back, how's that?
Why don't we get Amber to look at this?
Because she's not really available.
Well,
I
she
mean,
can-
Amber was gonna do it.
I know, but that's why I'm saying, she's still a member of our board.
She's a
as
member,
alternate,
but-
So she can probably look over this in 15 minutes.
Well, who wants to get this to Amber and
Won't they-
force her to do
I
it?
mean, really, because we're gonna sit here and look at this.
Well, you know, my reaction,
I've been to the cafe.
What's her story?
She moved, or did she?
no, she started a restaurant
She
in
started a
Norwich.
restaurant,
so
and I
she's-
talked to her husband just a couple days ago, and he said, she's trying to find help, somebody that can actually take over when she's not there. So, and when she does that, then she'll have more time. She's hoping to come back, but at the moment,
I've been there
She's
about
the only-
4 times and she's always there. It doesn't matter what time of day.
Yeah, no,
she's
not-
the only person. that
Sometimes
can
she is
come
the
back.
I don't think we can depend on that. I
So
mean,
I'll drop it off the next time. I got
There
a
you go.
sandwich.
Go down for
We
7
we
tomorrow.
gotta act, because this
Well,
is her cup of tea, right?
But why are we getting, I mean, this is just not, I think,
But
I think,
my point is, I don't know what to expect, and she should have a good idea of what to expect.
I know what to expect is something that's comprehensible. What, you look at, you're very sophisticated in this area.
I haven't looked at it, so I.
But,
Well, I mean, this is actually helpful for me to be able to give her feedback, to say, you know, I looked at it and like, this doesn't, you know, this seems like,
well, Eric, just scan it and see if, I mean, maybe I'm way off base, but I don't get
Yeah,
anything
like the
from it.
third page, where's that? Summary. Maximum lot raw, maximum unit raw. What's that mean, raw?
Well,
Current
it-
residential unit.
go back, you know, you're being guilty of not reading. Read the description, you know, she actually did put a description, at the second page, it says, you know, Excel document notes. You know, it does
Okay.
give you a listing of what those things are.
Total units based solely on land area.
I think, you know, Amber's the professional in this area, right? We need her input on this.
Okay, well, if that's the next step you wanna take,
Well,
then somebody's gonna have to be responsible for doing that.
So, you know, I'm just curious how, logistically, how this was pulled off. Did she come in the office and get in division? It says here residential according to vision. So did
She probably used the online,
It doesn't, I don't think she could do that. She can't create a report.
no,
She
she
would
was,
sit there and pull out each individual
probably
one.
why it took so many hours.
Okay.
And she doesn't really define maximum lot raw.
Anyway, we're supposed to, for the money we spent, we're supposed to end up, according to their proposal, with a mapping.
Yep, and that, you know, she did, to review the results and potentially make a few maps if desired, only take a couple more hours.
Yeah, except that was within their budgeted time, that wasn't extra.
Yeah. I will get hold of her and then, you know, say, listen, I think, you know, you may have hit the hours, but that's, you know, we still expect these deliverables, you know, at the.
Under the agreement,
yeah.
At least put lines around.
yeah.
numbers.
I mean,
Well, that,
we're old,
Yeah,
and we need
This is being
lines.
proposed senior.
Maybe landscape
Yes.
printing.
I don't know what that.
I think, Tim, I think that is like, is another column.
right, that's just a,
like
I
tag on
printed
that.
this out and,
But what does it mean anyway?
That-
We add all those up and then tell me.
I think it's under the proposed zoning ordinance change, the senior housing. This is how many senior housing units you could create.
Under the article or without the article?
I think with the.
article. Yeah, that's
With the
written
article.
to senior, proposed senior.
There's four
But there's
numbers
four of
there.
them.
Right, but that's a, you have the, the max, look back under where it says summary on the previous page, continue that line across. So the first number is going to be under max row law, or max lot raw. So it's under the first one, so 163 maximum lots under the senior.
168,
Or 168.
under the articles, and 113 is,
132.
Opening, is that what you're reading at? They're gonna open it up to a potential of 168 units?
your guess is as good as mine.
Right, well, that's where I'm,
She's got-
yeah, again, this is just what I got from her.
Okay, so look, I mean, really, whether Amber looks at it or not, I think you need to speak to her as soon as possible.
Can
And
she come present?
Well, that was part of the,
Yeah,
She come
she's,
present it, and we can ask her questions.
Yeah.
there.
that was part of the proposal.
yeah, tell her she's coming to a planning board meeting with a map.
and with, with paper printouts that are readable, because we can't print these out, neither can you. I tried to print it out, and my printer walked out on me, left the room. So,
Well, this one I just threw out, it came out on two, I thought it was gonna come out on one.
yeah,
It was just, I was trying to print
I'm not
tonight.
surprised because of the way it's formatted.
I
It's
can,
impossible.
I can format the printing easy enough.
All right, so will you make that a priority,
Yep.
along with all your other priorities?
Along with all my other priorities.
As a member of the public, I would think it'd be appropriate to have a narrative, an executive summary, a one-page note
Absolutely.
that says, looked at these things, doo-dah, there's 7 or 5,000 or whatever.
Totally.
Because we
And
paid
then-
what, $700 something?
No, we paid
1,200.
$1,200.
Yeah.
Well, this is not
We need lines.
$1,200.
I got the bill sitting on my desk.
Yeah.
No,
It's one of my priority things to go through my budget and find out where I can cut my own budget to pay for this.
Well, I wouldn't pay
I
for
She
it.
ran out of hours till I ran out of money.
You're not gonna pay for it yet,
Nothing's been paid for yet.
right? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Not until we get,
And, well, what I'm going to say is, we need, the rest of the deliverables
and she should come talk to us.
and a visit to the planning board. I do not consider that to be extra billable, and if there's an issue with that, then her boss needs to call me.
Right.
And
So, is there a potential problem for her to come and then need to meet with us, or do we have to schedule us a different time to meet with us? I don't know how that.
I believe in the original proposal, there was a single planning board meeting included in the.
So there's, okay, we communicated that they're at 7 o'clock. Okay.
Can you forward the Excel spreadsheet of hers to all of us?
I absolutely.
Okay.
How much room's on your computer?
No, it's not, it just is one of those things that doesn't have, when you start reading through the header, trying to understand what each column.
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't-
organization is just mind-bending. All right, so we've done that. And I just got this letter, which I haven't even read, but since you're all here from the Upper Valley, like, the same people, they would like a 10-year plan project submission form for transportation.
Maybe we can give it to her.
You really?
Well, the select board got the same thing.
Oh, you got it, okay.
No, that's okay. No, do what you want.
No, I don't want to do anything.
Well, I think that right now it's,
What they
Sue
want?
took it, it has it till October or something to get back to them?
Yes. Oh, so you're doing
But
What they want?
they're wanting a survey from a whole bunch of people, so.
it? No, I think you guys are really the right group. I'm so glad that they,
Sue's taking it to the roads committee, I think.
all right, no,
Somebody
because
on
I
the roads
don't, I
committee.
really am
The
not.
select board's in
Well, that's
charge
what
of the
when I
roads.
looked at it, I told her this morning, I said, Sue, I can't even
Yeah,
begin to
I
answer
can't
this
begin to
question."
answer either.
I don't even know, I'm not.
Tim will answer it.
Yeah, right.
He checks
I'll
the
answer it the
driveways.
same way Olivia did ours.
Raw,
Take me about 10 minutes.
raw unit 95.
7.8.
All right. Anything
That's
else?
just interesting. So that was addressed to you?
Yes,
as
to
well
John
as-
Stadler.
Is that-
With 2 Ds, it was close enough. Do we have anything else? You have no new stuff for us?
I do not.
And
Next-
so next time we have what?
You have Crossroads Academy and Pinnacle.
Pinnacle.
Yep.
Okay.
Can we just get a quick update from you for the planning board to understand what's transpired out at Bailey's? Is it stopped now? I mean, they did a great job of cleaning to the point that they're cleaning, but it seems to have stopped.
Well, he has to put in the screening, you know, the planning.
Well, I know I never did that, but we don't have a date to do that, that
Yep.
I know of, so I don't know how he's gonna do that.
I have not gotten an update from him.
But you went out there to talk to him about parking.
I did, the expansion of the parking, and this is an interesting issue that, you have a mixed use on the lot. And, what is being used for parking for the business, and what is being used for storage for the residents.
Or
Or separate.
I guess it's the resident. Yeah, right.
Yeah, 'cause
I see what
Morty-
you're saying, yeah.
Morty Senior has his business there. And then
I don't think he's in business anymore.
No.
Morty Senior?
I think he is.
Okay, maybe he still is.
A
And
little
then
bit.
Morty
It's-
Junior has his business there, so there's really two.
Well,
Well,
it's a
that's-
single business that,
We should have addressed it in that light, that's what it was. We didn't address it that way.
But
We did.
the issue is that because it's multifamily housing and it's subject to site plan review, anything that he wanted to do, if he wanted to add storage areas for campers or anything like that, that should have been part of the site plan review. And so that's what I explained to him, that, he did not ask for that area as part of his site plan. And if he wants to add area for parking equipment that's part of, considered the residential part, not part of, then he needs to come back and speak to the board. So he was going to pull out all that gravel.
He's gonna back it back out again, dig it out?
Yep.
They started digging it out. I saw some of it, looked like it was dug up.
Well, he's been digging to continue building it, is what I was told. He doesn't put that dry, sorry, I don't know what everybody else called, but it was a second access to
Yeah,
the
that's,
park.
that's
That
there.
second curb cut, so he built the parking lot up to a point where it's worked, and that curb cut is,
They can drive through it though.
no, they can't drive in it, because it's all, they put stones to the edge of the road, because he came out and dug it right up, in the state right away, he was digging, and
He has a permit to put it in from the state.
he does.
Yes. So he can
So
put.
then I'm wondering why he stopped, I don't really understand why he stopped.
Is it price?
Yeah,
Like
I
very,
thought- I
a lot
thought
of
maybe
people
there was
in
something
town,
else going on.
they go in this direction, stop, go in this direction, stop, come back, continue.
I can't figure out what's going on there.
Well, what,
It is.
he's got, 2 years.
Yeah,
2 year approval, so,
To
to get it done.
get it done.
But what you're saying is he's exceeded what, so you sort of
He's-
told him he'd come back and talk to us, but he's.
If he wanted to continue to do that, if he wanted to do that, but if he, we discussed things and he's just as happy to have it as, regrassed in, so he's gonna pull out the gravel up behind the barn, pull that all out, grass it in, and then still use it for,
Oh, I see. Okay.
yeah. The parking areas, from what I've seen, it's what was agreed to.
I just drive by,
Yeah.
I haven't seen the actual details, so.
I go by every other week or so.
And this just brings it up to where, the planning board did its thing and they're done, and now you've got enforcement, and we had this sort of discussion today about, okay, well, you're kind of our agent for enforcement, because if the select board's supposed to go out and enforce the decisions, then we need to be more up to speed on what those decisions have been, because we don't.
Well, it sounds to me like where we are at right now is that we don't have the end result, so we don't know.
Yeah.
And David's spoken to him to clarify things, and should become very apparent.
I don't know how, I don't have a timeline from him when they're gonna be done. They have, the approval's good for 2 years. So, you know, it's,
I was just curious.
So, I mean, this is, but we did talk about this, about having some sort of setup where, you know, when, if we're really gonna have that 2-year thing, then you have some sort of system where, okay, this one is now 2 years. or
Right,
that
and
one's-
so what we've recently, I mean, there's still, it's growing, but he's reporting to the board the list of all the permits and then giving us an update on what has transpired or what hasn't transpired with regard to all those permits, so that the board
Can follow.
will be aware. Because at that, we weren't even, the board couldn't
So
enforce it.
you
They
can
didn't even
monitor
know.
as things are going along, that's smart, yeah.
That's happening.
that's happening. I've already, my tracking database now has a place to put the status.
Great.
And I've gone back through everything this year and put a status on it,
Okay.
with the exception of a few that I found that the statuses that I created were not adequate, so I have to add some more to.
And there can be multiple stages on your notes there. Achieve this status, now we're on to that.
Yep.
Eventually we'll be able to check it off that everything's done and that piece can go away.
Yeah.
All right, and FYI for you, like the day before I saw you standing in the middle of the road, just, this is just for your, I try to go slow there because I know. But there was a family that just came like shooting out, running across the road, like in the middle of nowhere, and then one kid was left behind. And I stopped the car, and then she got scared to cross, and she went the other, but it was like, you know, if I had been going fast, I really might have hit them.
Right, right. I mean,
Here
it's,
and now.
it's a tough,
That's a
it's a
tough-
tough place. Right.
It, right there,
Mhm.
right on it. And-
Right.
But I mean, it really freaked me out, because, like, you
You
know,
got blood on your bum.
When was this, last weekend?
it was the day before you were standing in the middle of the road.
I was standing in
picking
the middle of the
out-
road. I've been doing that for like a week.
And you go out there every day?
Yeah, right, they're picking out more, you
You know,
know.
you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you can hear people coming.
You didn't hear me.
Just keep
I heard
going
you.
north, keep doing it all the way up to the Norfolk line.
See,
Take all those
they're
up.
paving all the way up to Piermont now, so you can just.
Really? Oh, man, what a blast.
Who's that guy who's?
You
Yeah.
must love it.
I don't understand how they
I don't ride
can
there, I don't
create
ride there.
litter,
Oh, you
it's a
don't?
sales thing
Yeah.
that's creating litter without.
Nice and smooth ride.
It's
you know.
smooth.
Ramifications.
Yeah, right, that's right.
It really, I think you've all outdone yourselves tonight. Fantastic job. Go home, get some rest, and come out with a fighting spirit tomorrow.
All right.
Day off, isn't it?
Is it? For me? Oh,
What's the day off?